You ready? The intro is playing in my head right now.
Hey, Biko. Hey, Ban.
I thought you were going to start me off easy.
Singing soprano in high school isn't really the sort of thing that gives you credibility.
Halfway into a pandemic, I was like, this is a great time to start meeting strangers.
I had not done a short film, I had not done anything.
I'd recommend the one chapter that captures all my romantic exploits.
Kenya knows what to do with people who give you what we know.
How do I like to enjoy my Singleton? A little bit of water, just a splash.
I like it neat.
I like preserving the integrity.
Oh, whiskey should be taken neat.
One ice.
I'm Soni, and you're watching Singleton Stories with Biko Zulu. Hi. I'm Soni Adriance. Today, well, I came from home. It's Sunday, so was just relaxing at home. On a good Sunday, my schedule is often waking up, going for a run, having lunch, doing grocery shopping, and meal prepping. I was born in the US, 2 months premature. So I had really weak lungs. And I was in the US for about a year, and then moved to Indonesia, Zambia, and finally Kenya, where I have grown up most of my life. Yeah, my dad's white, he's American, and my mom was black, Kenyan. I think black is all of those things, a pigment, a color, an attitude, race. I think I've always kind of struggled with my own race and identity. Being mixed race, I often find that people who are black consider me white, and people who are white consider me black, and so never really fitting into a particular mold. Yeah, I have struggled with identity. I actually wrote my college application essay on identity. And I mean, I struggled with it to this day, and all the different components of what makes you, you. I've really learned to be introspective and, yeah, being comfortable with yourself in your own mind and body. I thought you were gonna start me off easy. We're jumping into it, okay. So I've been single for about 2 years now and haven't really been dating in these past 2 years. And I decided to start dating 2 months ago because for whatever reason, halfway into a pandemic when there's a disease that's airborne, I was like, this is a great time to start meeting strangers. So I agreed to meet somebody for breakfast one morning. And I left, and that was on a Sunday. And on Monday, I started to be a little bit sniffly, but I didn't think anything of it. Tuesday, the sniffles continued. And Wednesday morning, I woke up and was drinking my morning coffee and suddenly realized I couldn't taste it. And I thought, okay, that's definitely strange. So I got up and went into the kitchen and smelled the coffee grinds. Couldn't smell them. And I thought, okay, this is definitely strange. I had a bit of pressure in my sinuses, so I thought maybe it was a sinus infection. Thursday, I woke up and I could taste less than I did on Wednesday, to the point where I went to the kitchen and poured myself a cup of vinegar and sipped it like water. So I called a doctor who came to the house and gave me a COVID test and told me to isolate. And on Saturday, I found out that I was COVID positive. And so I have to go back and start talking to anybody who I'd seen in the past, 7 to 10 days, contact tracing, which is fine until you consider that the first date I've gone on 2 years happened on Sunday. And trying to call someone to tell them you're COVID positive when you've known them for maybe 3 hours is the most uncomfortable conversation that I've had to have this year. The morning that I was gonna tell him, he texted me and said that another one of his friends tested positive for COVID, so he was gonna get a COVID test, and I was kind of let off the hook. I feel vulnerable when I'm sharing myself on social media. I have a social media page which I run about like food and drinks in Nairobi, and I find that people relate to me the most, when I can be vulnerable and be open about who I am, my interests, my passions, my past. When you can have an opinion or take a stance on any current or topical issue, right? People want to know the person behind the page. It can be scary and it can be hard to be vulnerable and make sure that you're saying the right thing and not mincing your words, because the internet never forgets. I definitely try to be the same person, but there are certain boundaries that I'll draw in terms of things that I'm willing to talk about. My talent, I have the gift of gab, as people would say. I like to talk. I'm a people person, and I think that's a talent, definitely. Freelancing, I've been so fortunate because I have 2 or 3 clients which have been long-term. So I haven't had that struggle that I hear of people having where, you're constantly trying to chase clients or chase payments or things like that. For me, Nairobi has always been home. The story of how I got my first job is incredibly serendipitous. I was studying public communications in the US for college, which is a degree for anybody who doesn't really know what they want to do with their lives, but knows that they have the gift of gab. And my dad was here at a neighbor's house party or something, and he met a guy who was working at ScanAd at the time, who said, oh, what do you do? My dad was saying, oh, I have a daughter who studies in the US, she's studying communications. And this guy said, oh, where? And he said, Washington, DC. And the guy said, oh, I'm gonna be there in 2 weeks. And my dad said, cool, you should definitely link up with my daughter. So I met this guy, we went out in the city, went out to dinner, and he told me that come June, he might have a job position opening up here in Nairobi. And I graduated in May. And so I graduated university in May, and 5 days later was on a plane back home to Nairobi and was employed by the end of the month. Yeah, I don't know about revelations around the social life in Nairobi, but definitely that you can take any situation and kind of make it into something good for you. Yeah. When was the last time I did that? Going into freelancing, when I left my full-time job, I didn't have anything lined up, which is unusual for me. I'm pretty type A. I just jumped into unemployment 2 feet first and hoped for the best to, use my networking and the professional contacts I had made to make something work. Yeah, I'm struggling with the inability to plan ahead. I had come into this year believing that I was going to move to the US and try living elsewhere. And when that didn't happen due to the pandemic, I had to refocus myself. No, I don't think I would do anything differently. That's a dangerous game to play. Yeah. It was my birthday the other day. I feel like age doesn't matter between 21 and 30. I'm not 30 yet. But yeah, pandemic birthday, it was good. Went to dinner with some friends. It was pretty low-key. The only one that comes to mind is my mom's passing away. She passed away in 2013, December. So December is always kind of a tough month for me. When my mom passed away, a very good friend of mine, whose mom had also passed away, gave me a really good piece of advice. And she said, it's not that it stops hurting, it just gets easier to deal with. And it's funny because 7 years out, there are still days where I'll just break down and cry like she died 10 minutes ago. I link culture very closely with tradition, and I guess going back to this idea of identity is another thing that I struggle with. I don't feel particularly close to either culture. I don't know what American culture is besides fast food and loudness, but abrasiveness. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. No, I I had a funny upbringing in that my household isn't very religious, you know? I wasn't raised in any particular religion, or I'm spiritual. I'm not necessarily religious. Things aren't random, but I don't know if I believe in a higher power. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if my lack of belief is because I was just never steered in one direction or another, although my parents were practicing Buddhist for a while. I went to Christian camp. I feel like I've done the reading, I've done the looking into it, but yeah, I'm not. I don't think I've figured out my purpose, but I've barely figured out my own career. And I think the older I get, the more I realize that aren't we all just faking it? Because you get to these milestones of, you know, maybe, oh, my parents got married when they were my age and I'm not even in a relationship. Or I look over at some of my friends who have kids and we're barely adults ourselves, or at least it doesn't feel like it. I feel like a lot of us are just faking it. I'm really trying to unlearn the steps that society believes you should take to become a fully functioning adult or human. You know, and you can really make your life whatever you want as long as you let go a little bit of these things, these ideas or benchmarks that you feel like will make you successful, and whatever that means to you. I would love if I could be a little bit more on the edge, you know, more like a creative maybe. Yeah. A couple of things come to mind, but I don't want to continue to talk about my career because I'm also trying to be less defined by my career. You know, when you meet people and they're like, so tell me about yourself, you often latch on to things like your career as a part of identity, which I guess is kind of becoming a theme. But the last time I took a big risk would probably be when I went to the US this summer in the middle of the pandemic and traveled and went to a wedding. And that was a risk that we all got away COVID-free. And it kind of feels like we robbed a bank. For mourning, you know, I have a really hard time picking favorites. I feel like might be my own commitment issues. So I would start with a really ice cold coffee, cold brew, some oat milk, go on a run. I'd have pancakes and eggs. And I'd have dessert after every meal because breakfast dessert is a thing and it can be French toast. And maybe some Prosecco or something. I'd probably make sure to talk to my loved ones, my friends, my family. I probably wouldn't tell them it was my last day on earth, so they wouldn't freak out. I'd actually probably just spend the entire day eating. Like when I really think about it, you know, because I don't think I can just pick just one thing. But I would definitely, it'd have to include a lot of chocolate. No, and honestly, I genuinely thought about this, which I know is kind of dramatic, but when I did test positive for COVID, I was like, what if I died? What if I died in like 5 days? I mean, I didn't have symptoms that bad. I don't want to like, you know, cause any alarm. But I did think, I was like, what if? And I was like, I think I'd be okay with it. I think I've lived well. For me to say I'm extremely happy, I would need to continue going to therapy because I feel like the more you learn about your inner workings and how you perceive the world and approach the world and move through the world, you can better understand yourself. I think that would bring me, hopefully, happiness. I am. Nothing in particular happened for me to go to therapy. This year I just started because I had a lot of downtime, and the first therapy sessions I ever went to was after my mom passed away. It was incredibly insightful, but what you quickly realize is you might go to therapy for one big traumatic event, like a parent passing away, but as you peel back the layers of that onion, you start to learn that maybe there was a whole bunch of other things going on in your life, either currently or in your childhood or in your other relationships with people around you that require a little bit of work. I'm not always very good at asking for what I want, whether that's in my relationships with other people or particularly my relationships with other people. I am a people person, as I'd kind of mentioned earlier, but I think sometimes that also means I'm a people pleaser, which means I'll put my own desires aside to make somebody else happy, especially if it's somebody who I love or care for. 8, solid 8. I feel like I have really good relationships right now with the people that matter. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like, you know, people are always saying like, oh, don't ask my age, or, you know, I'm scared of turning 30, but I'm really excited to get older. Yeah, I feel like, you know, you get a little bit wiser every year. I really like it. The 12 is my favorite. I love an old-fashioned. I like preserving the integrity of the whiskey. Look at me this is big talk, you know? I like to preserve the integrity. But I like the taste of whiskey, so I'm never gonna add Coke or something. I mean, no shame if you do. You're looking at me like you do. But it's totally fine if you do. It's just not, yeah. I like to be able to taste it, and the 12 is my favorite. Thank you.